What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So the other day, Nintendo dropped an update out of nowhere that certainly shows they still have some creative ideas for the Switch platform, and we'll go over that one here today. Also, we are going to be talking about another showcase that we have to look forward to, and it certainly makes me wonder exactly what games could show up there. And we'll also be going over an announcement from Nintendo that had Nintendo Direct trending online, just not for the reasons you'd expect. So if you guys enjoy the video, make sure you hit the like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Atlus and what appears to be an announcement for the Persona franchise. Now, this was posted up over on Persona Central, and this is a description for a panel that will be taking place July 3rd at Anime Expo. And in the description, we can see it says, join Atlus West and be the first to know about all the exciting happenings. By the time you're reading this, the cat is out of the bag. Head over to the mobile app for more details on our news and special guests. So obviously people were like, well, I'm reading this now and the cat doesn't appear to be out of the bag. Does this mean that an announcement of some kind for a new game from Atlus, for maybe Persona, is coming up? Well, there are certainly a lot of different projects being rumored right now. We know P5T, this URL, has recently been updated, and we've seen that in the past from Atlus, that tends to mean some sort of announcement a game is coming. And it wouldn't shock me considering we have a bunch of showcases in front of us, specifically Summer Game Fest or even the Xbox showcase. Remember, we had all those different Persona games that were revealed to be heading to Game Pass and other platforms at Microsoft's show, and there have been rumors that a Persona 3 remake could even appear at Xbox Games Showcase. So a lot to look forward to here, and we'll see if we have something from Atlus in the next week or so to set them up for this expo. Also, we have some good news on the storage front for the Xbox Series platform. As we know, Seagate basically controls the expandable memory with the little expansion cards, and that's basically kept pricing pretty much static, despite seeing the PlayStation 5 have its NVMe drives just dropped in price just due to the free market and being able to pick out from all these different drives. Well, now it does look like Western Digital, as we had seen previously, is launching their new accessories, and that starts today, which you can see over on The Verge. They spotted this with the pricing in the press release, coming in at $80 for the 512 gigabyte model or $150 for the 100 or the 1 terabyte version. Still not necessarily competitive with what we see for the PlayStation 5, but it is better than what we've had from Seagate, and maybe this is what we need overall. I mean, you pretty much do competition in the accessory space to drive down prices, but maybe Seagate comes back and is able to undercut Western Digital over time. Maybe another company comes in with their own offerings and we can see these prices continue to fall. It just took a while. I don't know if Seagate had some sort of exclusivity deal or timed exclusivity deal with Microsoft, but good to see more of these becoming available. And by the way, these are available right now. So if you've been hanging out waiting for better pricing on these expandable cards, seems to be a good time to pick one up. Oh, and of course, Diablo 4 launched last week in early access, or really the actual release date, and they pushed it back later on for people who are just going to spend the $70 for it. But it looks like that has not slowed down sales, as they did put this press release out through Business Wire, saying that it is already Blizzard Entertainment's fastest selling game of all time, with Blizzard's highest pre-launch unit sales ever on both console and PC. They also go over some of those stats where they add up all the hours. In this case, 93 million hours have been played of Diablo 4, or over 10,000 years, the equivalent of playing 24 hours a day since the beginning of human civilization. Yeah, as we figured, gaming is bigger than ever, and Diablo 4, the biggest launch we've seen, or the fastest selling for Blizzard. And the game is fun. I'm playing it now, and it's still Diablo, but it's a good time. A lot of loot happening, leveling, skills, things blowing up on screen. It's fun. So far, so good anyway for Diablo 4. Appears to be a better launch than what happened back with Diablo 3, so good news there. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and an update that just kind of went live out of nowhere, and they've been doing this more and more recently with their Nintendo Switch Online program. However, we do typically see a lot of expansion pass announcements, which makes sense. They're trying hard to push the more expensive tier, but from time to time, we do get updates and games added in for people on the $20 tier. And it looks like that's what's happening. And we can see this posted up over on Twitter, where they say 4 classic games are now live for Nintendo Switch Online members. And I gotta say, looking up and down the list, it's pretty good. I mean, Mystery Tower isn't one that I really had a lot of experience with on the Nintendo. However, Harvest Moon on the Super Nintendo is like $450 right now on eBay. And I know people can just emulate it and all this, and the aftermarket is a whole thing with these cartridge-based systems. It's still cool to see that kind of get added in here, and the game's still good. So if you like the kind of the farm simulator style games, of course, with some of the social twist on it, I mean, go back to where it really all started here with Harvest Moon on the Super Nintendo. By the way, the sprite work still holds up, so definitely a good one to check out. But then going over to the Game Boy, Blaster Master Enemy Below. I mean, I've played Blaster Master before, but I don't think this variant. But Kirby Tilt and Tumble. This was an interesting one because, I mean, it was pretty cool on the Game Boy Color, right? Where you had like a gyroscope in there and you would basically move your Game Boy around. And I thought about it for a minute. I said, hold on, are they actually going to use the Switch or the Joy-Con or the Pro Controller, the gyro there? Yeah, they actually are, and it's an interesting thing to see happen as you're playing it, and it just kind of shows that, yeah, Nintendo still has a bit of that creative touch to take some of the controls that we have now on the Switch or features and kind of meld them to be used for something like Kirby Tilt and Tumble. But I think overall, 4 games getting added in from 3 different systems, it's a pretty good update, especially since it is also targeted towards that $20 tier, but we're still missing Pokemon trading card game. I don't know what's happening with Nintendo. Maybe they're waiting just in case they need that ace up their sleeve if something really bad happens. An announcement comes out that's devastating to the brand and they gotta save it. You gotta turn to the Pokemon trading card game, obviously. That's the one I'm really looking forward to, but having Kirby Tilt and Tumble there is fun for the Game Boy Color, and then having Harvest Moon, also a good one, but definitely looking forward to whenever the day Pokemon trading card game comes out. However, these are all available now, so make sure you check them out, and don't sleep on Harvest Moon. Like I said, I think that one has aged pretty well. Next up, let's talk about a big showcase that's now been announced, and the calendar has pretty much filled up over the next week, which we typically expect the first half of June to be pretty busy because we'd see E3 in there. Not this year, but still looks like we have a lot to look forward to with reveals, and this posted up over on Twitter from Capcom USA saying, tune in on June 12th, 3 p.m. Pacific or 6 p.m. Eastern for a Capcom Showcase digital event featuring roughly 36 minutes of news and updates on our latest games. And in fact, if you go over on the website, they kind of have a little placeholder spot for the showcase now with all that information. They also say the date and time of the event may change without prior notice, and some of the games included in the show aren't suitable for children. So with that in mind, I think it's pretty clear we'll probably hear something about Resident Evil, and it most likely is Resident Evil 4 Remake. I was trying to figure out if they would just have extra content to show off there, or if they would put a date finally on the PSVR 2 mode, but we just saw it at the PlayStation Showcase, so you feel like they would have put a date there, but otherwise, I'm always going to say it. I hope Mega Man X9 is revealed, even though it probably won't be. But if you think about it, right now, Capcom going into July, which will have Exo Primal, that'll probably be there. Street Fighter 6 most likely will have a date placed on a new character coming up that they have obviously showcased different characters that'll be heading to the game over time. And maybe at that point, they can tell us about Pragmata, which has kind of just been floating out there for a couple of years. And I know Capcom hasn't necessarily had the best showcases around E3 time. One year, people tried to figure out why Capcom even showed up in the first place. But this does feel like kind of a different Capcom right now. They're certainly on a roll, and Exo Primal may trip them up a bit, but based on what they've been releasing, I mean, I have to pay attention to Capcom and, of course, cross my fingers for something Mega Man related, but it's hard to deny. They are putting out quality release after quality release. The biggest announcement Capcom could probably make here is a new Monster Hunter game. If you look at their Platinum Games list, Monster Hunter World is the best-selling game in Capcom's history, so a follow-up to that, especially after what we've seen with Monster Hunter Rise, being as successful as it is would be massive, and I'm sure would get people really excited. So yeah, let's see what Capcom has. And hey, but can't really complain. More showcases in lieu of missing an E3 is only better, obviously, to fill up some of the space throughout that week and then also give us more stuff to look forward to. So there we have it, a big Capcom showcase over half an hour long next week on the 12th. Next up, let's talk about an announcement Nintendo made on Twitter that had Nintendo Direct trending online. And you might figure, oh, well, that means the Nintendo Direct was announced. Well, not quite. This was posted up over on their Twitter account, where they say, mission alert, customize your Explorer and embark on a journey to find and rescue fellow explorers. You will befriend plant-like creatures called Pikmin, and their fate will rest on your hands. And the Pikmin 4 is coming out July 21st. This appears to be the kind of the marketing push for Pikmin right now, or just different things they're posting up on Twitter. So there you go. It's kind of what I figured would happen though throughout the summer anyway. But it's funny, after this was posted, people then looked around and said, oh, I guess there's not a Nintendo Direct, which I feel like we've kind of been working towards that conclusion for a little while now. I remember there were reports that Nintendo didn't necessarily have a lot to show through the summer, and they themselves said that, hey, we're not going to be going to E3 for like the first time ever, really. I mean, sure, they may not show up with the biggest floor space, but they are at least there in some capacity, but not this year. They were going to bypass the event because it didn't align with their marketing plans, or they didn't really have enough to fill up what they would deem to be worthy of an E3 time period where it would cost them legitimate amounts of money to be there. Now, there was a clip that was circulating, I think also worked to kind of push things along for the idea of a Nintendo event missing June. And that was from Jeff Grubb over on Giant Bombcast, where he had talked about the idea of Nintendo maybe aiming towards July for some sort of event or announcement. And I'm kind of thinking the same thing. I believe they are going to just sort of walk through June with these Twitter drops here and there, whether it's different colored pastel Joy-Cons or everybody 1-2 Switch, or hey, remember, Pikmin's coming out next month. But the idea of them doing something in July is interesting. It could be a partner showcase. Hey, maybe they have to announce a new system. I mean, haven't they been announcing like the Switch Lite and the Switch OLED, I think, over the summer, right? Around that July time period? Well, what good time as any to announce the Switch Lite OLED. That'd be great, right? Everyone talking about a next-gen system, and Nintendo shows up with the Switch Lite with an OLED screen. That actually is not hard to believe from Nintendo. But hey, at least Pikmin should be getting the spotlight for the next month or so leading up to launch. And while I'm not the biggest Pikmin fan, I still played them on the GameCube and the Wii U. I checked it out a bit on the Switch when they brought over Pikmin 3 Deluxe, but I'll pick up the fourth one and see what I think about the franchise now and what changes and improvements they've been able to make here. But let me know what you think at this time, considering we're seeing showcases pop up all over the place with Capcom just announcing theirs, for example, but nothing from Nintendo. Are you pretty much checked out now for the idea of them having a Direct in June? And are you looking towards maybe July or even September? Let me know. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a new game from Grezzo. Now, you of course know Grezzo, who did the Link's Awakening remake. They've worked with Nintendo for quite some time, so whenever you hear about them maybe doing something, you think about them partnering with Nintendo for a project. Well, in this case, they seem to have found a new partner for a title, and this is posted up. You can see over in Gamatsu. We also have an entire trailer showcasing this game, which is Jet Dragon. It's for Apple Arcade. It's coming out June 16th, and well, I didn't really expect this one. Remember we had those job listings, I think from a year or two ago, and it was Grezzo hiring for some medieval fantasy game. I think Jet Dragon is it, which, yeah, that's of course deflating for a lot of Nintendo fans who were maybe thinking Grezzo was going to do something else with Nintendo immediately. Now, that's not to say Grezzo isn't working on something else with Nintendo. It's just this seems to be the next thing up for them on Apple Arcade of all places, and I have discussed the idea of looking into Apple Arcade, maybe getting a Mac Mini and checking out what they have to offer there for their subscription fee. But I do occasionally see games pop up and I go, I wouldn't mind trying that. And while this doesn't look like it's going to be a Game of the Year nominee or anything, it's still a new IP from Grezzo, of all places, so I would be interested in checking it out. Now, if you look down the different key features, it appears to be dragon racing games. They even mention training and breeding dragons on board your tower ship to unlock their hidden potential. And you can also, I guess, play online and everything there. So an interesting game, definitely a smaller scale title, but one that it appears they were able to get funding through way of Apple Arcade to get it to the finish line. And I am curious if Apple will continue to put more and more money into gaming to prop up Apple Arcade, and what other smaller projects we can see from different studios just kind of pop up like this one. Interesting stuff there, but hey, I guess if you have Apple Arcade, look towards June 16th to check out Jet Dragon from Grezzo. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, have you played Final Fantasy IX? Look at this, 58% say, no, I haven't played Final Fantasy IX. 28% say, yes, I played the original PS1 disc. Good job. 14% say yes, but later on emulator or port remasters. And Final Fantasy IX has been moved to several different platforms, and it is fairly easy to emulate. It was a PS1 title, but this had really came from me thinking about Square potentially remaking Final Fantasy IX, which, by the way, more and more talk is getting out there, and yeah, I do believe it is a thing, and I'm trying to figure out when we will see it, because now I'm looking around like, wow, there's a lot of Final Fantasy stuff happening right now. We're talking about 16 coming up in 2 weeks. Then we have 7 Rebirth. There are talks about Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster and a Final Fantasy IX remake. The NVIDIA GeForce leak, the list hasn't missed at all, really, so I expect those to be revealed in the next couple of months. Maybe at one of these showcases. Again, Summer Game Fest tomorrow. Hey, Xbox Game Showcase coming up as well. So a lot of possibilities there, but also a lot of Final Fantasy seemingly in the near future. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Michael, who says, I really wish that all publishers would move away from CGI trailers in general. In-game graphics are now good enough to convey everything we need to know about a game. So the reason you may see CGI as opposed to in-game is you still have to ask developers who are trying to get the game to the finish line to stop potentially for months at a time, and work on a vertical slice that they are comfortable showing to millions of people, and it would be representative of the game, potentially a first look, right? Which, at that point, they actually want to polish it quite a bit so it doesn't look bad. Whereas a CGI trailer is very controlled, and typically you can work to outsource those to companies who specialize in it. And that's why you may see a game being first introduced or unveiled using a CGI trailer, because the game's not necessarily in a state that's prepared to be shown. All right, again, expectations continue to go up and up and up. And even if you say it's not necessarily representative of the final product, it's the first impression that a lot of people are going to take away from it. So at times, CGI is probably the safer route, and that's why you see it more times than not. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where's the Nintendo Switch Online update with Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Game Boy games heading in? Were you happy to see the Kirby Tilt and Tumble works pretty well on the system? And then also, what about the Capcom Showcase? What do you think they'll have to show us there? And Nintendo with the Pikmin 4 tweet that now has people thinking that Nintendo Direct could be further away than we were expecting. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.